Hey guys, good morning. What a beautiful Thursday we have in store for us. A great way for us to get started today is by going through Psalm 68. Psalm 68 is a pretty large psalm. I'm not going to cover all of it. I do encourage you to read it though, because this is probably one of David's, I'd say almost one of his most poetic psalms. And what I love about it is it tells us in so many ways that we win, that God wins, that Jesus wins, that we are on the winning team, on the winning side. It's this awesome view and awesome perspective out into the future when the Lord will come establish his righteous rule and reign for 1,000 years. And it's going to be this incredible moment, which we'll get to partake in, be a part of. And he's been inspired by the Spirit to write of this moment in psalm format. And the thing is with it too, is that while a good bit of it is very prophetic, it still describes the nature and the character of God. It can still draw some of that emotional intensity from ourselves as we long for a day when there is no more injustice, when there is no more hatred, when there is no more hardship, and when there is no more, just constant strife and all those things that we face in this world, that when all the wrongs will be made right and God will come and he will dwell amongst his people again. So that is one thing that we get to look forward to. And so that's what the psalm, as you read it, should inspire. I'm going to hit on the first part, and then a couple of important verses in this as we go through it. So here we are, verse 1. It says, "Let God arise, let his enemies be scattered. Let those also who hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before the fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of God. But let the righteous be glad. Let them rejoice before God. Yes, let them rejoice exceedingly." Verse 4, "Sing to God, sing praises to his name, extol him who rides on the clouds by his name Yah, and rejoice before him." This beautiful picture is Jesus will come back in the clouds, and the name of God himself, which is such a beautiful perspective. And then verse 5, it says this: "A father of the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy habitation. God sets the solitary in families. He brings out those who are bound into prosperity, but the rebellious dwell in dry land." I want to camp there a little bit because it's beautiful. We get to see that God becomes the father of the fatherless. What's important for us to see there is that many times people grow up without fathers at all, or they grow up with fathers that are really terrible examples. And this is one of the hardest things to transition from a young person into an adult that I've seen in people's lives, is when you don't have an example of who God is set before you as you live those early years. It's a hard transition to really understand the full nature of God. But the moment that happens, the moment that we end up partaking in the goodness of God being our Father, is that we get to see that the full nature and care of his love. And it's just such an amazing thing as people get to walk through that experience of God truly being our Father. So many people are father of, he becomes the father to the fatherless. We also see a defender of widows, as those go through incredible grief and separation from someone who they've loved for so long. He becomes the strength. He becomes the source. He becomes the very thing that is necessary to kind of fill in some of those massive gaps in our life that we didn't even know that maybe sometimes we had until we lose, right? And so those things the Lord does. He has a tremendous heart for those in that situation. And then he goes on and he says, God sets solitary in families. What does he do? He takes those who are set out, and he brings them into the family. I love this because as a church, it's such a cool thing when you see individuals, singles, older widows, and they're brought into the family of God, the church. There's such great joy in all of that as we're just kind of pulled into the family, and we get this beautiful relationship that now exists together as we do life. And then he says, and he brings out those who are bound into prosperity. That's interesting because we would almost think that prosperity is something that we ought to be enjoying, but he actually draws them out of that, right? That those who have a heart for the Lord, he's going to pull out of prosperity. What does that mean? He's going to have them to where they no longer have their hope and their trust in their prosperity, but rather their hope and their trust in him. But if you want to be rebellious, guess where you get to dwell? You get to dwell on the dry land. You don't get to enjoy the amazing abundance that can be found only in Jesus Christ. And then it goes on. I'll jump ahead, where it says in verse 19, it says, blessed be the Lord who daily loads us with benefits, the God of our salvation. Our God is the God of salvation, and to God the Lord belong escapes from death. Right? This beautiful picture that the Lord is going to daily load us down with benefits, the absolute blessing of having him be our God, the absolute confidence that we can have him be our salvation and escape from death. Right? And at the end of this entire psalm, it would say there in verse 35, oh God, you are more awesome than your holy places. The God of Israel is he who gives strength to his power, to his people. Blessed be God, that there is nothing greater than God himself, that this is the very point of our affection, the very thing which we look forward to, the very thing which we can draw strength from. And for him to be, all the things which we could ever want, ever need is incredible. As we taught on Exodus last night, we got to learn about the power of the simple name of God, I am. This is I am becoming flesh to so many people as we turn our lives over to him. So I love you guys. Be encouraged, be strengthened by the Lord. Keep your eyes fixed on him, and may you just enjoy the mighty hand of God working in our lives, supplying those needs which we have. Just respond and just enjoy being a child of God. Love you guys.